Alright guys, what's up guys, it's your boy Key Life here, and today we're going to be reacting to 5 scary horror stories with pictures along with them. There's going to be one picture for each story I believe, but we're only going to listen to 2 or 3 stories, and the link is going to be down in the description. Other than that, let's get to the video, let's go. Alright.
I grew up in a small town in central Arkansas. Every deer season around November, my family and I would go to our hunting cabin near Mena, Arkansas. My great-grandpa built the cabin in 1984. It was a nice cabin for the time. It's slightly outdated now, but it worked fine for my family and friends and I. 2 years ago, my friends Austin and Cody went with me to the cabin in late October for a pre-season hunt called muzzleload hunting. We were scouting an area about a mile from the cabin looking for any signs of deer because we were considering putting a stand near the spot.
There wasn't no deer, but I promise you there was something there. You know what I'm saying? There was something there looking at you in the forest, boy.
After splitting up and wandering around trying to find an area with the best lines of sight for a stand, I came across a pile of rocks in the woods. After closer inspection, I realized it was a grave belonging to a man named Ed Crane. We were not bothered, more interested than anything. We snapped a couple pics, and after finding a decent spot for a stand, we headed back to the cabin. Cody tried doing some research to find anything out about Ed Crane, but he didn't come up with a whole lot. Fast forward 3 weeks, we're back at the cabin for the official modern gun season. This time it's just Austin and I. We were sitting in the cabin discussing where we should go for opening day, and I decided I would try out the stand we had previously put up during muzzle loading season. Austin went about 1.5 miles the other direction towards a small lake off the property.
And I'm thinking this is at nighttime? Possibly? Hell no.
To hunt. I left the cabin around 4:45 a.m. because I had about 1.5 miles walk and wanted plenty of time to walk slow and get to the stand before daylight. This isn't a national forest and you cannot drive any vehicles into the hunting trails. We split up at the end of the road, me going left towards the stand and Austin going the opposite direction. It was a normal walk for the most part. I've been in these woods since I was 9 years old, and a mile walk was nothing out of the ordinary. I finished my walk and approached the stand, trying to be quiet as to not scare any deer that are bedding in the area. As the sun slowly started to rise, I couldn't help but keep looking over to my right to see the grave we had previously found. It was around 30 yards from where I was sitting, and it was thinly buried in surrounding brush. There was just enough light to make out the mound of rocks through the leaves. I saw something move out of the left side corner of my vision. This was not frightening at all. I'm completely used to seeing movement early in the morning while hunting. If anything, this was exciting. I turned fully to the left, but I could not locate what I was looking at. There was no movement. About that time, I heard, "Hey," in an almost whisper.
What? Hey. Hey, how you doing there? Motherfucker was like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, how are you doing?" Like, bro, what? Hey, you, come here. Hey, you, come here.
Scream coming from behind me.
Behind
this made me
you?
Physically jumped so hard that I shook the stand. I flung my head around backwards, but there was nothing there that I could make out. After turning on my headlamp and panning my surrounding area for at least 5 to 6 minutes, I took out my hand radio. While shaking, I radioed to Austin asking if he was near me. I got no response.
That nigga,
I continued calling in on the radio, while looking back and forth for the next 20 minutes. Daylight was approaching, and after chalking it up to being in my head, I finally started to calm down. The sun rose up over the trees, burning off the thin layer of fog that was covering the woods. This is around 7 a.m. now. I had almost forgotten about the incident when I heard it again. This time, "Hey Caleb." The same whisper type scream as before. This time it was enough. I grabbed my bag and gun so fast. I accidentally left the hand radio on the seat beside me in the stand. I climbed down the ladder so fast I almost slipped off. I hit the ground and speed walked all the way back to the cabin, peering over my back every 10 to 20 steps. I opened the cabin door and Austin was nowhere to be seen. He was still hunting. When Austin finally did return to the cabin, he was confused. He kept asking if that was me screaming into the radio. I explained to him my experience, and I explained I never screamed. His radio was clipped to his belt while he was standing in the doorway trying to make sense of what had happened, and right as we were talking about it, his radio started making this incoherent screeching sound.
Oh no.
Not a static sound. It
That's
sounded
pretty
organic, like some kind of animal was making it. We listened intently and sat the radio right
Scared,
beside
bro.
us for the rest of the day. It never
What?
happened again. We came back later that week with our other friend Cody, and I looked for my radio in the stand and on the ground around it. It was nowhere to be found. Needless to say, we no longer hunt in that spot. We don't even hunt anywhere in that direction past the gate. It was the weirdest, most unexplainable experience of my life.
Nah. Yeah, that's different. That's the difference between other people, my friends. You know what I'm saying? We feel something's going on, we're leaving immediately. Y'all feel like there's something going on, you're gonna stay. Keep on hunting. No. There's people looking for you, trying to get you. Run. Go home. Alright, story number 2. Susie.
It was a cold December night.
Okay,
I was
Christmas.
hanging out with a few friends, Todd and Tristan. We were bored and had nothing to do. So one of us came up with the idea of going to the nearby train station platform to take some pictures and goof off. The platform isn't far from our houses. When we
What could ever go wrong at the train tracks? What could ever go wrong?
got there, we started taking pictures of the liminal space we found ourselves in.
Oh, what?
After hanging out there for a little while, it started getting even colder and we were hungry. So we started to head to our car. The path back takes us on a long footbridge across a canal. We spent some time on the bridge joking around and taking more pictures. The mood could not have been better, but the cold was getting to us, so we started back on our way again. The bridge was not wide enough for the three of us to walk side to side.
Wow.
I was walking in front,
very
Todd
small
and Tristan
bridge.
behind me.
Oh no.
We were joking and chatting as we walked. Tristan said something funny, and I turned, still walking and laughing at what he said, when I noticed a man walking just feet behind Tristan. He looked to be in his late 30s. His face was dirty and he was wearing a black and white plaid shirt and ball cap. His arms were down at his sides. In one hand was a cigarette, and in the other was a large kitchen knife, clear as day. My blood ran cold when I saw it. I quit.
A ciggy and a knife? You're gonna just smoke and stab a nigga? Like, bro, bro? Come on now.
Quickly spun back around, pretending I hadn't seen him. For some reason, I thought that was the best thing to do. My fight or flight kicked in, and I found myself speed walking to the end of the bridge. I hoped that my friends would catch on and match my pace. I glanced back at them to check, and thankfully they were right on my tail. But the man was too. He was now so close that an outsider would have thought he was part of our group. He stepped off the bridge and took a path going to the right, my friends still having no idea the man was even back there. Fearing I was about to need to defend myself, I held my tripod up like an axe. The man seemed to get the memo and took the path to the left. We walked a little bit further before I pointed him out to Todd, and I gave him a quick rundown of the situation we almost found ourselves in. Walking backwards, we watched the man disappear into the darkness, and we hurried back to the car. We drove to the nearest gas station where we got food and talked it over. The whole situation was just a weird story, up until a few days ago when I was checking the pictures I had taken that night. This picture shows Todd under a light on the station platform, but just beyond the light, almost behind a freight car, is the silhouette of the man.
Ain't no fucking way. Dude, what the fuck?
The picture was taken at least 30 minutes before the situation on the bridge, meaning he was watching us, waiting for us to put the cameras down and turn our backs. You hear stories of things like this happening, but you never expect it to happen to you. I still get chills thinking about how differently it could have gone.
Now he could have walked up on y'all and just slink. It could have been over for y'all. No cap, it could have been over for y'all. Y'all was over there. Y'all was over there walking and shit, walking slow. All right, we finna go home. This dude was walking behind you like, bro.
My husband was in the military, and after we got married, we bought a house in a small town in North Carolina. Despite being considered a military town, it really was not a safe area to be in. One night we even heard gunshots down the street from us. But anyway, because of his job, he was
Crazy.
gone for training operations often, and he also worked nights when he wasn't having to travel. This meant I was home alone most of the time. At the time of this story, I was in college full time, so I was able to fill my days with lots of studying and homework to pass the time he wasn't home. One night when I was writing an essay, I was laying in bed with our dog Simba, and we both heard what sounded like rustling coming from above our heads.
Y'all know what that means.
Simba started barking and
Somebody in
growling,
that
which is
mode.
unusual for him. He's a pit bull mix, and despite people thinking they're scary dogs, he is a huge baby and had never acted like this before.
There's somebody
I
in
thought it
you
was
crazy.
mice, so I texted my husband and he agreed. He told me he'd call pest control the following day so I wouldn't have to worry about laying bait and traps myself. 2 days later, pest control came and did what I thought was a thorough inspection of the house. There was some evidence of mice and roaches in the attic, so he laid some baits and also sealed some entry points in our home. However, over the next week, the rustling kept getting worse and worse, and was always at nighttime. And every time I would hear it, Simba would freak out, and at one point his hair was literally standing up on his back. This started to really freak me out, so when I called my husband after this happened, he assured me that it was the mice and they were just freaking Simba out.
Nah, bruh. Nah, bruh. Nah, bro. If this happens more than 2 times, nigga, more than 2 times, and you're in the military, you better pull out with that strap.
And worse, and was always at nighttime. And every time that night, just as I was about to fall asleep, I thought I heard footsteps from above. But since my dog didn't hear it, I'm back. This started to really freak me out, so when I called my husband after this happened, he assured me that it was the mice and they were just freaking Simba out. Later that night, just as I was about to fall asleep, I thought I heard footsteps from above. But since my dog didn't hear it, I thought I was just psyching myself out. Being home alone so often, I did have some anxiety, especially at nighttime, because I didn't feel safe without my husband home. The next day I slept in pretty late and had woken up with a fever, so I wasn't feeling great. I got up to let Simba outside. The layout of the house was odd. You had to go into the garage to open the backyard door, and the entrance to the attic was right above it. As I was walking to the door, I felt like I was going to vomit. Not because I was sick, but because the door had a huge dirty handprint on it and a bunch of smudges from the inside. Someone had been in there. I assumed.
Nah, gang. It's a big ass handprint, gang. It's one big ass handprint, gang. It's a big ass handprint, man.
Someone had broken in through the garage in the middle of the night, so I took a picture of the door and called the police. I texted my husband to tell him what was going on while I waited for the
You know he finna pull up with that strap. He finna pull up with that gas.
police, but unfortunately he couldn't respond until later due to work.
Aw, damn.
The police came in just a few minutes since their station was right down the street. I showed them the handprints and how I couldn't understand how someone broke in because I would have heard the garage door opening. Then I realized that maybe the rustling I was hearing wasn't mice, and that the footstep I heard was actually a person. I told this to the police, and they immediately checked the attic. It turned out,
No.
some guy who lived with his family down the street from us was a meth addict, and he had been avoiding staying at his family's house. And so he had snuck into our garage when I was gone one day, and had been living up there for a little over a week. Somehow pest control had missed him, because he was hiding behind a bunch of boxes. Apparently the inspector was not as thorough as I had hoped. Our Ring security system never even picked the guy up on camera entering our home, so he must have entered another way. Thankfully, we no longer live in that house or area, and despite this happening a few years ago, I still get scared being home alone at night for any amount of time.
Shit, I was
Just
too.
thankful nobody got hurt.
Alright, we're gonna end the video right there, y'all. Okay, so that story was fucked. That story was crazy. It's a homeless meth head that lives with their family down the street. So a homeless meth head, not homeless, a meth head that lives in the neighborhood, snuck inside their basement. Well, they attic. They went to the basement, whatever the fuck. They went through the garage, broke in, went to the basement or whatever, or the attic, and they've been sitting there for weeks, just for weeks. And I want to know how the mouse people missed a human being inside of their attic. Like, how do you miss a fully grown person inside of an attic? I mean, I'm looking in the boxes, I'm looking around the boxes, all that. It would have been crazy if they found it. It would have been like, holy shit, there's somebody in here. There's somebody in here. But yeah, other than that, y'all have a wonderful day. I'm out. Peace.